Stream offline. Hello, people. What's happening? Made myself a delicious smoothie. It's very blue today. Very blue. Cheers. Here's to you. Kampai. Anybody there? Hey, there's Andrew. Andrew, you're first in the chat. Good morning. Sup? What's up, everybody? Happy Sunday to you. Jason says, hey, man. What's happening? Romania. TV's in Romania. Cool. I don't think I've ever been to Romania. No, I have not. Dallas. I've been to Dallas. And I've been to Germany. What's up, Germany? Alexander says, my favorite fuzz. A couple favorites. The BAE is amazing because it has a treble booster built in, too. And man, the treble booster combined with the fuzz sound ferocious. Really, really cool pedal. Plus, it looks like a big old piece of Neve studio gear. So that's like a big bonus. Because it just looks so cool. A couple others are the Hyperfuzz, good old Boss Hyperfuzz. I love that thing for my Octavia thing. And the Starlight from Crazy Tube Circuits. I just love that thing. So much fun to play lead with. Great big fat, easiest lead tone in the world. Just put it in front of a clean amp, turn that thing on with maybe a little bit of reverb and delay and just go more out and enjoy your life. We've got Portugal and Brazil in the house. Fantastic. UA aux review coming up soon. Yes, I'm going to work on it today after I leave here. I started writing a thing yesterday that is decidedly Zeppelin-y, and that's what I'm going to use. A little song. So it'll have probably like, I'll try and do like, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 tones in it and use the aux for everything. Loving that thing. Let's see. Let's see. Elle says, last week was fun. I scooted right over as soon as I got the notice. Nice to have you here. I'm glad. Yes, blueberry and banana smoothie. A little bit of egg white protein. And Jerome says, hey, from Edmonton. What's up, homie? Is it cold up there? I wonder. It's been cold here, like super cold in California for California. Like getting down to maybe 38 or 39 at night. That's cold for LA. Am I open to giving lessons in LA? No, I don't really teach. I just, I don't have time. Somebody asked Tim the other day, and he said it best. If I'm doing a lesson thing these days, it'd be like a Jam Track Central thing or something along those lines. Just the one-on-one thing, I would rather, to be honest, it's like the lessons that I buy online from Jam Track that I bought recently. I bought Mateus Sasado's a while ago. Need to work on it more. But also I bought Laurie Basilio's. They're so great that it's like, I would rather produce content like that, and to be honest, I would almost rather learn from content like that than the one-on-one thing, because it's like not as expensive. You can buy these great courses that are so in-depth, you can always go back and revisit them, and you learn so much from them. And an hour-long lesson, a private lesson, it might be cool. The last hour-long lesson I took was with Paul Gilbert, and he was teaching private lessons, and he charged accordingly because he's Paul Gilbert. So I think it was $300 or $400 for the hour, maybe $400. And I thought, I'm going to do this. I grew up. This guy, had a lot to do with the development of my picking technique and stuff like that from his videos. And yeah, it's actually a great example because I learned from him from videos and stuff like that, from those videos you put out. And you learn a lot because there's like so much packed into an hour in a video. And when I went to him, I spent the $300 or $400, and it was awesome. I got some great tips. The main thing that he taught me was like, if you're stuck on a lick, listen to drum fills, like classic drum fills from songs, and make a lick out of it. So like the rhythm of a drum fill could be anything, a Zeppelin fill, anything. Just put on it and then listen to the rhythm of it, and then sort of match notes to it somehow. It can be any notes that of your choosing, but take the rhythm of the drum fill, and I was like, oh, that's a really, really great tip. That's the one thing I remember from the lesson, and it was really cool. It was cool just to sit there with him and play one-on-one. But it's expensive, $300, $400, and it's like, to be honest, there's way more material packed into what you're going to get out of it. It's just because it's a professionally produced thing. It's concise, and so anyway, I would rather teach like that, and I would also rather learn like that, I think, at this point. Um, Now, if you've got specific problems in your playing or things that can be addressed only through a one-on-one thing, that's another situation. I could see that. Like, if, like, man, I just can't get my picking together, and if you get a teacher that can identify a certain problem in your playing, I guess that's something you can only get out of a one-on-one experience. As an internet broadcaster that often streams from home, excuse me, this is from Steve. Have you ever caught yourself doing something embarrassing on video, like picking your nose? uh, I don't think about it that much. No, not really. I've been pretty um, consistently, I think, okay. I don't think I've, no, not really. I don't know. I'm actually really comfortable doing this stuff. It's fun for me. What do I think of Bogner amps? Have I ever used them? I had an Ecstasy in the 90s. I had an original Ecstasy 101B, I think it was. It was a good amp. I really liked the one channel on it, the channel 2. And that's the one that most people seem to gravitate towards, that kind of blue channel, Bogner blue channel. I like them, and I like Reinhold. I've had, good association with him, and I really like a lot of his pedals, like the Lagrange. Uh, he has a certain way he hears things, which I think has more low mids than what I'm used to. I like a little bit more trimmed out um, in the lows and low mids. That's sort of a typical Marshall voicing. The Bogner thing is thicker, and that's just what he gravitates towards, I think, in his amps. That at least from what I've heard. That's a good question. How do you deal with bending double stops on a floating tremolo? What I do is, and my friend Al Vermeule, I'll credit him with, like, especially on a Floyd Rose, he taught me to lean on the bridge just a little bit. You kind of have to practice it, but when you do a double stop, you just lean, and it doesn't go out of tune quite as much. It takes a little bit of practice, but that I do that sometimes especially on a Floyd guitar. You kind of need to do that. Michael says, we're listing locations. Hello from New York City. What's up, New York City? I miss New York City. I haven't visited in a while. But yeah, anyway, if you're bending, just lean on the tremolo a little bit as you're bending. Put a little pressure on it. And you just have to practice it a little bit, but it's a cool trick. Going to see a Big Wreck concert. Oh man, is Big Wreck today in Edmonton? See, I was thinking about taking a trip home. Damn. About to see Big Wreck at Edmonton. I thought that'd be really fun to see them in my hometown. And that's happening today, so that's obviously not going to happen. Too bad. But they are coming here, and I'm wanting to go, and I think it's in March, and I'll see them in LA. I think they're ending the tour here. Oops. Oh. So I'll catch it. I just wanted to see them in Canada with Canadian fans because I thought that'd be cool, It'd be like, they're so big in Canada. It'd be fun, especially in my hometown. Anyway, have a great time at the show. I hope it's awesome. I'm sure it will be. Say hi to Ian if you see him. I remember I was looking at their schedule and thinking, man, I should take a trip home and go see them. See some family and stuff, obviously, at the same time. And Aeon's from India, and he says, I'd love to visit India one of these days. It's one place I've never been. I'd love to go there. I know nothing about it, really, I feel like, I mean, I've watched a bunch of movies, obviously, and stuff like that, but that would be an exciting place to visit, I feel like. Did I get around to changing the bright cap in the 71? Yes, I did. I had Friedman just switch it out to, real low value, I guess, which makes it less bright. And it's cool now. I'll probably use it in the aux video this week, so you can hear. It's much less, it's still got that thing, but it's way more usable across the sweep of the pot now. I was going to put a push-pull in there and kind of have it selectable, which I still might do, but I just didn't want to wait anymore. Just Dave, in about 3 minutes one day, just switched it out for me. Hi from Ontario, Canada. Always got to hear your voice. That's Aaron. Vic's Audio Ram's Head. Somebody's suggesting for a fuzz. That's Paul suggesting that. Is the Ram's Head, is that like a Big Muff, I think, right? I recently saw a little Billy Corgan video that was like, maybe it was on the Reverb site or something, that was for the Big Muff, can't remember what model, but little one that's supposed to match whatever he used to use. And that video was cool, I thought. I liked hearing him play it through the low input on the JCM 800 like he always used to do. Do I think there will ever be a resurgence of modulation effects? I feel like it's already happened. I hear chorus more now than I have for a long time. Um, and I'm not afraid to use them. You know, it's like all bets are off these days. You can use whatever you want. You know, fuzzes, modulation, rock tones. It doesn't matter anymore. I don't feel like it's like it's out of fashion now. I'm not afraid to use a good old CE1 or CE2 style chorus or something and just go for it. Play super 80s sounding tones. That's cool again. You know, I say when I listen to that band, like there's this band called The Night Game. They were opening for John Mayer on his last tour. Go listen to that band. Listen to that song. It's called The Outfield. The Outfield. Go listen to that song. It sounds like Mr. Mister. It's full 80s. I mean, production, gated drums, the whole 9 yards. It's like it's come back, back around. Have my coffee yet? Yeah, I had 2 cups. Do I sound like it? Do I sound like I had my coffee yet? I got up and made a pot of coffee like 2 hours ago, and I'm just like, I feel fantastic. I feel fantastic. I'm still drinking. I love that feeling. I do. It never gets old. Regards from Dubai. Wow, there's a place I've never been either. That's from Igor. What do you do in Dubai, Igor? What type of work do you do? I'm curious. Are you did you move there? It's like a fascinating place to me in some ways. It seems like a city built out of nowhere that like people, finance and whatever people. I don't know. It's interesting to me. It's kind of sprung up in like the last however many years as a international hotbed of whatever. We got Michigan in the house. First Beatles question. John had his casino sanded and lacquered. Yeah, interesting, right? Where do I come down on distressed new guitars and tone? I don't know if it affects the tone or not. Kind of perceivable. Maybe it does. No finish. Never really compared. Turn that off. It's possible, I guess, but especially over time, maybe it affects things. I've got my urine right here. It's distressed somewhat, but not heavily. And it has very thin lacquer, and I don't know. It's got a buttload of tone. A buttload of tone. Yeah. Cheers from Tokyo. What's up? What time is it in Tokyo? Konbanwa. It's late. Late. What are you doing up, Tokyo? Very late. Let's see. What lead pedal was that? My kids came in the room. Oh, the lead pedal? I was talking about, I think, the Starlight Fuzz. That's from Michael. The Starlight Fuzz is one of my favorite fuzzes, especially for playing. That's great for everything. Just a really, really good sounding fuzz. 50s wiring or treble bleed. On the Les Paul, 50s wiring is fine, I think. I like treble bleed on my modern Strat stuff. Lost my place in the chat. I'm going to back up. Back up. I always say this, but I'm really going to make an attempt right now to go faster. So I think that'll make for a good show, unless something that really needs to be addressed. Oh, Leo's here? Wow, Leo from Frog Leap's here. I'm so stoked about that. He's so awesome. He's my new friend from last year, and he's such a talented guy. You've probably seen his channel if you haven't, but Frog Leap Studios. Leo makes amazing videos and plays everything and sings, and he's super funny, and he's very intelligent, and he's a great guy. Okay, moving down through the chatting. Sorry, I had to back way up, and as soon as I find where I was, I'll get started here again. Okay. Sorry. What's my feeling on the current state of Gibson now that companies like TMG and Echo Park make better Les Paul copies than Gibson? Steve Stevens brought up a good point this week. I'll just say about Gibson is that if they go under, it won't be good for guitar. I believe that that's true. I just hope that they would restructure or do something. I don't want Gibson to disappear. I just think that it would be nice if they weren't focusing. When you look at all the brands that they own, like the Philips, they must make a ton off of their, like Dave Friedman was pointing out to me this week, off the little headphones and things like that you see in, like, CVS from the Philips brand, because they own that, as well as all these brands that are like Steinberger, Baldwin, Kramer. It's like, do we really see Kramer guitars out there, or Steinbergers? I haven't seen a Steinberger guitar. They own all these brands. It's just like, I wish Gibson was just its own thing and doing its own thing, making great guitars. That's all. But I don't want it to disappear, and I think that would be a sad thing. You know, when I hear Henry talk about, like, we don't see ourselves as a guitar company, we see ourselves as a, like, whatever he said, like something like a consumer, I don't know what he said. I'm going to misquote him, so it's not okay. But you should see yourself as a guitar company, Henry, because that's what we all see you as. If it's Gibson, we don't think about little headphones, So maybe the Gibson portion needs to go elsewhere, and they can rebrand the company as Philips or something. Azox led me to abandon the Sur reactive load. No, the Sur reactive load and the aux, to me, they do some of the same things and they share some common ground. But it's like, you're talking about one that's $1,300 and one that is $399, right? So first of all, there's about $1,000, whatever, $900,000 difference there. That's a lot for a lot of people. I've obviously used the reactive load, the Sur load box, forever, and like since it came out, I was helped with the design of it. So, excuse me. Oh, culture. So rude. What's my point? The point is that it's going to work for a lot of people, and it's going to do a great job. I mean, you can get great tones with that thing. It does a terrific job. The aux is beautiful and elegant, and also does a terrific job. I'm going to use them both because I still love the Celestion IR sounds. It's not like those got bad overnight or something, Celestions with the Sur, there's some terrific tones to be had there. So for certain things, it's like, like with the aux, they've got a couple greenback cabs in there, and I love greenbacks, and that's great. It's awesome, great tones. If I want some alternative stuff, what am I going to do? Like V30s or Celestion creamback H's, which I really love sometimes. So for those, I'm going to go to the just plug in the Sur and do that kind of thing. Or for the alternate greenback sounds, which are terrific, and the Lynchback Celestion IRs are also fantastic. So using the Sur, it's just tools. And think of it like different microphones, and which microphone and mic pre do I want to use today? Well, now it's like, which load box and IRs do I want to use today? It's just options. Hi from Vancouver, awesome. Love that town. And Jersey. George wants to buy a DD3 delay, but he's thinking about other options. The DD3 is a good basic digital delay, but there's so many. God, I mean, the options. Where do I start? Look at the DD7 for starters, because it's like a really cool with analog and mod and different options in there. The DD3 would be limiting for me these days. There's other delay pedals that I would pick over the DD3, because it's just that it does that basic one delay sound, but you can't roll off the top end, you can't get modulation, it's like all that good stuff that I guess I'm used to now. So yeah, so noisy today. Tell you what. So I think the cab sim on aux is better than impulse responses. Well, it is fun having that speaker drive control where you can kind of make the speaker, age the speaker or whatever, and also drive it. And it kind of has a nice effect on the tone of softening the edges, and as it gets up higher, it'll do kind of anomalies like cone cry and stuff like that. So that's fun to play with. It is pretty cool. And Brian was asking about Gibson bankruptcy. I already addressed that. Just saying, I hope they don't go under, but it would be nice if they just focused on making great guitars and not stupid guitars that are painted like 70s boogie bands. I know it's hard to reinvent the wheel, right? Constantly come up with new Les Pauls, but the answer is just make less. Make less and make it perfect. And take advice of people that, your customers and other people that really are telling you what you should be making, like real guitar aficionados. The advantages to use a real amp with a reactive box and IRs for playing and recording over modeler software, or somebody who can't play with a loud amp in an apartment. Well, yeah, there's lots of advantages. Tube amps still for me are the shit. It's like they just have first of all, there's the simple operation, so that's a big advantage. That's the one of the biggest advantages is that you can plug in and just turn knobs with your hands, right? And if you're coming line out, you've got a few favorite IRs saved, or speaker simulator presets, whatever you want to call it. It's just so easy, That's what I mean. The easiest thing in the world for me is plugging into the PT100. I know exactly where the knobs are supposed to go. I got a couple channels there. I got a boost built in. It's like there's a world of tones there, and I can get to things very, very, very quickly on that thing. And it's a sort of fun, organic way to get a tone. Even though modelers, they get better all the time, they sound really great, but it's like, it's never as, I mean, I do love, don't get, I enjoy playing through modelers. This week I took the AX8 and I used it on the Tim and Pete show with Laurie Basilio, and you can hear her playing through it. When she's playing my guitar, she's playing through the AX8, and you can hear me play through it too. And at one point I do it around 31 minutes in. I think I do a little demo of some presets I came up with, and I think they sound great, and it worked really, really well in the context of using it on that show that week because I could get some different sounds and click between different tones really easily. I like the thing. It's great. It's really compact and sounds good. Once again, these are all just tools. But yeah, there's sort of no substitute for just plugging into an amp. You're modeling the back end when you're using impulse responses and a reactive load, either the aux or the SUR or whatever you're doing. You're only modeling the back end. The front end stays the same old thing that we've been using since the 50s, tube amps, which is really nice. So easy. Okay. Cole says, made it for the first time. Hello. Hello, what's up, Cole? See you here. David says, hello from the Mojave Desert. Have you ever played the Elmwood amps? No, but I was intrigued by them. They didn't seem to be around very long. I remember that 90-watt one they had out and stuff. Don't know much about them. But I was interested for a minute. They were supposed to sound good. Let's see here. Do I end up tweaking settings during a show, or have you developed a sense for knowing my different patches, like the right volume? So like during gigs, do I tweak things? Sometimes little things, you need to kind of go, like, I'm not hearing enough presence tonight, or I'm not, but generally my settings on amps and stuff, especially when you're in an arena, like in a club, it's different. When you're in a club, you're faced with the surroundings. You're generally not on the in-ears, and you're faced with the intimate acoustics, and you might need to make changes on the fly for the room. When you're in like arenas, you can't tell that stuff. You can't hear like on a big stage, outdoor, indoor, stadium, arena, it doesn't matter. It's like you can't tell what it sounds like out front. So you're not going back there and tweaking your amp to compensate for something in the room, if that makes sense, So you kind of set your sound in rehearsals, mark the settings, and then you get on stage and you tend to not really deviate. Like once you start a tour, it's like you just leave your amp the way. That's what I find. I don't really, not. Oh, there's too much bass in this room. You can't tell in like a hockey arena or whatever. Let's see. Dan says, liked my commentary last Sunday on trolls. Don't let them get the best of you in video comments. Yeah, I had a really weird dude this week commenting on videos, and I learned something from it. He was the level of insanity, and then he got really dark, like really, like like crazy and racist kind of stuff, and really bad. And at that point, I just had to block him because I won't put up with that kind of bigotry and insanity. But what I learned from it, because I did spend probably 20 minutes of my time writing comments and addressing this guy this week before it turned really dark. And then I went and looked at some of the things, some of the links he was posting, because I was intrigued, I told him, I'm like, you're a car crash. I can't look away, at the stuff that you're saying and doing this week. And so I went and looked at some of the stuff, and I realized, like, okay, I'm somehow enabling this guy. Like, I'm enabling him by giving him my time and by responding at all. And when I saw the level of insanity with this guy, and he's saying things about my playing or whatever. I don't take any of that stuff, like, whatever, dude. Like, if you don't like me, that's not everybody's going to like me and my playing and what I do musically or even as a person, But, so that was all good. But but I was enabling his insanity by commenting. And somebody said to me, somebody left a good comment. It was like very, very insightful, helpful comment where they're like, Pete, I think you're dealing with somebody that maybe has some mental health issues, and you should be careful and just kind of like just probably back off from. And it was like the way he worded it, and I went like, that's solid advice, and I don't know why. I'm Canadian, and I'm very like I have this like sort of Mr. Spock kind of brain where I want to make logical sense out of things. That's just how I am. But sometimes there's no logic. It's just crazy. Crazy people are scary, and this guy he was really really off. And so I decided this week it's like I have to be more selective about when that kind of stuff comes through to just block and move on. Because there's plenty of people out here, like all you nice folks in here today, that are nice people and are not crazy. uh, it's not worth my time and my effort. There's only so much energy and time and effort you can put into things. So let's see. Oh wow, David says orders custom built GNL ASAT. Do they have a custom shop? That's interesting. I didn't know that they had one. And he's saying he's going to put some thorn buckers in it. That's awesome. I hope you like them. I do. And Humberto says he liked the Tim and Pete show with Laurie Basilio. If you guys haven't seen that, please go check it out. Laurie was amazing. Check out the first solo she does. It was from a little bit later in the like we were filming and we jammed numerous times throughout the day, kind of the couple hours that we were filming, and she was really warmed up and she played this solo that was just her phrasing is like impeccable. Just this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful lyrical kind of phrasing. Every phrase is like, it's very conversational. It's like she's talking, And she's such a great guitar player. And what a great person as well. So I really enjoyed doing the show with her this week. Are there any resources you'd recommend as a tutorial for Logic Pro? There's some great online courses for Logic. I can't think of them right now, but if you just search for Logic Pro course on Google, I've found a few. And there's things that I would pay for one of them and get one of the kind of the I can't remember if it's Mix Online or something. There's different Logic Pro courses available though. There's some good ones out there. Do I ever listen to African music? No, but I have friends that do. My friend Greg, who's a great guitar player, he put out an album a little while ago. I know he's really influenced by African pop. Interesting guitar playing in that music, but I don't know anything about it, to be honest. Let's see. And I'd be happy to learn, if anybody's got some suggestions of what I should listen to. Let's see. Can't wait to hear Tim and Laurie on your album, says Andrew. Yeah, they both played solos on a kind of Pink Floyd-y jam. It's really just a big, long jam, this tune. And there's going to be one other guitar player on it, and I just want to make sure that they're going to do it. I'm just not sure yet, but it's going to be really cool. So it's going to be 4 of us on the one tune jamming, and it's really cool. I'm so stoked about it with a video I'll make of everybody playing their parts. Let's see here. Somebody's asked me without giving too much details. I always wonder how it works with getting paid in your current situation. Do you make much money on the products with your name on it or from touring? Well, in general, so touring has been the biggest source of income for me ever since 20 years ago or so. That's how I have earned my main living, but gradually it's shifting into other areas. And it really is about being creative with the way that you earn income these days. You can kind of make your own small business, essentially, as a musician, I feel like. And it really is throwing 100 things at the wall and seeing what sticks. And you might have a bunch of different ways of doing things. For example, you could be selling lessons through something like Jam Track Central, doing sessions, occasionally getting touring work, occasionally doing gear demos where people might hire you to produce the gear demos for them, or maybe just hire you to come into their studio and play for them or something. So there's all these different avenues. So yeah. It's about being versatile. What Deer distortion pedals do you rate among your favorites? I really like Klon types, so I've been using the Archers a lot. Rockaway Archer and the Standard Archer. I already brought up the Fuzzes today that I really like. Some overdrives and distortions I like. Some other ones. I really like the King of Tone. Terrific pedal. Some of the stuff from Petty John is really, really nice. They sent me a new pedal that I have to make a video for, actually. What else have I got here that I'm thinking about? Yeah, the King of Tone is great. I already said that. Tried a new EW what is it, EWS, that company that makes mostly bass pedals. I hope I've got that right. They make a pedal called the Little Brute Drive 2. That's a terrific small size, small format Marshall style pedal. Really sounds great, and it's little. I'll put up that video this week. The Sir Riot is a terrific sounding pedal. Really great for a distortion. So there's a bunch just off the top of my head. Let's see. What was the name of the old lesson VHS tapes that had lessons in the day? Hot Licks. Yeah, Hot Licks was one. They had a bunch of lessons, like guys like Arlen Roth, and Keith Wyatt. I think maybe they put out the Yngwie one, or was that REH? REH was the other one. They did like the Paul Gilbert lessons and stuff like that. Putting a Thornbucker in the bridge slot, any suggestions for middle and neck? Well, I mainly use V60 LPs. I find they match really well. I've got those in at least 2 guitars with the Thornbucker bridge. Danny says he pre-ordered an Origin 20 Marshall head from Sweetwater. It would be interesting to see what you think. I thought it looked pretty cool at the NAMM show. Let's see. Any thoughts on running a super through the aux at 4 ohms? I wouldn't recommend that because you're not supposed to do an upwards mismatch. Or maybe you can. Maybe it's the other way, downwards mismatch. I always forget. Maybe that might work. You might want to ask somebody first, like a 2 ohm to 4 ohm mismatch. If Sir comes in the chat here, we'll ask him and see what he thinks. I guess that's okay because I do my Bassman 4 to 8 all the time. They break up a little sooner, not quite as efficient, but that might be okay. I think that's probably okay. Paul says Cornell was an underrated guitar player. He was. He was a great guitar player, and he was very shy, not shy about playing, but he was very, he didn't think he was a good guitar player. And we all know that he was. He came up with great parts, and he was always very sort of self-deprecating about his guitar playing to me. And I was like, you're a great guitar player. You play like a singer-songwriter. You got your own thing going on. And he worked really hard on it during, I think, the songbook years where he's touring solo and stuff like that. He would, he practiced a lot to be able to do. He was amazing playing solo by himself, and that was some of the best probably touring that guy ever did. Was like some of those solo gigs, and he had to work hard on the guitar to practice to get to be able to go out on stage and do 2 hours or 2.5 hours of music all by himself. That's not a lot of people can do that. Okay. What else we got here? Let's see. I've left the light on behind you. I guess I did, yeah. Is that bad? I'm just looking for more questions here. What's the worst I ever bombed? The one that just came to mind right off the top of my head was when I was 14 years old and playing in my junior high school, and I went up to play a solo at the front of the stage, and my cord pulled out of my amp right at the first note of the solo. That always sticks in my mind as being like a pretty epic failure. I walked too far, and I didn't wrap the cable through the thing on the amp. You live and learn. Lucky I learned it when I was 14 and not later on in front of, more people. But it sucked in front of your school. It's like, oh, God, that was supposed to be my big moment. Now I'm a loser. Let's see. Trying to be stronger technically, says Q Stick. When I'm soloing, do I think about intervals over the chords, patterns, or just let her rip and trust your ears? All that. I still think. And sometimes I think, and other times I'm just not thinking. Don't know how else to describe it, really. Can I talk about traveling with guitars with the new CITES environment? I haven't run into any issues as a personal, individual traveling with instruments. I think it's more when people are shipping instruments to be sold. Don't quote me on that, because I would hate for you to go to the airport and run into a problem and say, Pete Thorn told me, but I've come in and out of the country since all this furor started with numerous instruments, just traveling with them as my personal instruments, and I've never had an issue. I'm so happy Leo's in here. That's cool. I had to back up so much, I just got to where he just joined. So once again, if everybody hasn't checked out Leo's channel, go check out Frog Leap Studios. He makes such fun videos. You'll get lost for about an hour watching all his videos because they're so entertaining. Let's see here. Keeley Super Fat Mod Germanium, somebody's asking about. I haven't tried them. I have some Keeley pedals here. They sent me a few pedals of new ones that I haven't had a chance to try. They've got that compressor overdrive that looks really interesting to me, and I think they sent me the one you're mentioning, the fuzz. How would Lagrange sound through a modeled clean channel in the helix? Can that be used in lieu of a clean amp channel? Through a modeled clean I don't know. I would probably call up a 50 watt plexi or something to play Lagrange if I was picking an amp model. What time do I normally start? Somebody's asked me. 11, and I was a few minutes late today. Oh, we got 436 people online. That's awesome. Stoked. That's rad. I was almost thinking of signing on live on Instagram and saying, hey, come on over, like doing it for 10 minutes as kind of like a advertisement for this. See if some folks that are on Instagram would, sign on to YouTube. Think so many people we could get going. Shall I do it? I don't know. Maybe in a few minutes. I've never done the Instagram live thing. I've never tried it. Okay. Let's see here. Good morning, Jennifer. Jennifer is here. Okay. Thoughts on advice about monitors. Band is debating going with inner monitors, and I'm hesitant because I feel I miss the true sound of my guitar. It's a struggle, and it really requires dialing it in and maybe having a great monitor person. You can do it on your own. I would suggest having if you're going to do it on your own, just have like Crest makes a monitor console that you can use. That's, you can walk over and change it while you're playing. And or either that or use the boxes on stage that you can have control over the whole band in your own volume. I don't know, man. In-ears for me with a great monitor guy are still as good as they ever are. It's just like, yeah, that's pretty good. If you sing, you'll really appreciate it. If singing is your primary thing, or it's like 50-50 with the guitar, a lot of background vocals, you'll be like, yeah, this is pretty good. But the guitar just never is as fun. It just isn't. Not really crazy about in-ears. It sounds like shit, kind of, in the in-ears, It's just like, there's something about the wireless thing, too. If you hear a hardwired, it's like listening to guitar through headphones sounds pretty good, or through in-ears when it's hardwired sounds pretty good. You go to the wireless thing, and it just loses something, and it just has this gritty kind of quality. No matter what the in-ears, no matter what the system, there's this grit, and it's right there in your eardrum all the time. It's just like, sounds bad. I don't know. I just don't like them. Shouldn't the PT50 have an integrated reactive load circuit in it? That's all I'll say. You may have thought of that. A few weeks ago, you had recommended Neil Greenbacks as a higher rated greenback. I got a set, and they're fantastic. I'm glad I'm not crazy. I haven't actually gotten a set of my own yet, but that was my thought. I'm glad you like them. And you're comparing with mid-70s blackbacks. Good call. So they're good, right? I mean, like the Neil Greenback, to me, next to a greenback, I was like, am I nuts, or do I like this more? It actually has a worn-in greenback character to it. And of course, they're half the weight of a regular speaker. What's the blue stuff you're drinking? It's a blueberry smoothie. I made a smoothie with a banana and a blueberry. Blueberry, not a singular blueberry. It's got a bunch of blueberries in it. Egg white protein, a little bit of almond milk. What pickups do I have in that black single cut in the Mind Abuse demo? It's a Gil Urin guitar, a Bone, and that guitar has the Gil's stock pickups in it that he just winds for it. So I don't even know what they are, but I think they're the set. It's kind of standard kind of PAFE set. Haley says, wanted to go to Big Rec, but stuck working. I'm sorry to hear that. You should get out of work. Colin's sick. Leave and go see Big Rick. I said it. I did. Justin is asking, did you and Eric Draven ever, that was the weird dude this week, ever bury the hatchet over the proper way to play Lenny? No comment. Let's not even talk about that dude. He's, first of all, he's a racist. So, he's very, like, a David Duke supporter. That's what he said. That was it for me. I was like, okay, block, bye, see you. Done. Let's see. Seems like the Fractal UA are made for recording and quiet stage volume uses. What about the true Bedroom Warriors? Bedroom Warriors! I don't know why. Just felt like I had to do that. What do I recommend for a solid home setup that isn't wall shaking loud? Well, you can go the modeling route. You could go that route. See my little baby Marshall? It's one of those little Marshall 1 watts. I bought it used. It's great. It's about TV volume through that little Marshall 110 cabinet. I put a Celestion greenback 10-inch speaker in there, and it is a fun little bluesy sounding rig to play through. 2 knobs, tone and volume. And it has a built-in, because 1 watt can be surprisingly loud, it has a built-in attenuator. Just a push button that brings it down to, like I say, about TV volume. How's the small box combo? I'm considering buying one. Never tried one. I don't know. I haven't tried that. The combo. The small box is a nice amp, though. When I record guitars, do I choose multiple mics? Yes. Usually a 57 blended with a ribbon of some sort is 9 times out of 10. And I have this Sterling ribbon that's like really cheap, $200 that I really like right now. And Beyer M160, which is the classic Hendrix microphone. It sounds great. You can use it all by itself, and it sounds really good too. Let's see, it must be nice to have Friedman on retainer. Dave's one of my best friends. He's on retainer as much as he's just he's just a great guy. So he's a good pal. And Sir is too, which is like I'm pals with these guys. First and foremost, John's one of my absolute best friends in the world, and I love the guy. And so it just so happens they are geniuses as well, which is lucky for me. I'm a lucky guy. Can I talk a little more about Tim Pierce's favorite amp, the Divided by 13 RSA 23? It's a 2 KT88 amp, Class A, I do believe. So it's very unique in the power section. Kind of I think, Marshall-y meets Vox front end. I'm just not 100% sure. I've never owned one. I have an RSA 31 and I have an FTR 37. But Tim likes it because it's like a blend between a Fender Vox Marshall, sort of somewhere in the middle, and just he kind of always runs at edge of breakup and then hits with pedals, and it's like his thing. It's like his home base, I think he's found in that amp. He's used it for years. He's got a ton of amps, but that's the one that he seems to gravitate towards. What do I like better, JCM 800 or JMP? JMP, but the 800s are great too. Yeah. If you're talking about the master volume versions, though, it doesn't matter. They're both the same, basically. This is about some changes. But, I mean, if you're talking about like a 78 JMP or 79 or something and an 82 JCM 800, they're basically the same amps, I think. Just cosmetically they change. Okay, moving down. Have I tried the 3-signal audio acoustic guitar impulses? No, I should. That's a good tip for me from G-Man Music Productions. Would like to try them, if there's some good professional ones out there. Because I've only tried the ones I found for free online, and they were really cool. The op-amp Big Muff was the big muff I was referencing earlier. Thanks for pointing that out. Paul says that's the one that Billy Corgan was using in the reverb video. And it did sound great. Do I find that the Dunlop prime tones tend to be much different than the standard Ultecs? Yeah, they feel different and they've got the grip on them, so there's definitely that. They maybe don't last as long, maybe, but I'd like them. Can I suggest a good distortion pedal or high gain overdrive for a lead tone running through the clean channel of a Hot Rod DeVille? Well, the two I'd recommend maybe would be try a Shure Mini Riot or a uh, this EWS Mini Brute or Little Brute 2, I believe it's called. I did a demo of it this week, and it sounds great. I was really happy with the track I came up with for it. A lot of clarity. I used the neck humbucker and played the main rhythm riff through it, and it's fairly distorted, and it's just clear as a bell. It sounds great. Let's see. Good morning, says Brian. Good morning. And hello from South Korea, from Jacob. Hi. Have you ever tried VHT? Yeah, I've tried some VHT amps. At one point, I was going to get a Pitbull, or maybe it was a SE or something. What the hell was that thing called? It was a 50 watt, and it was I don't know if it was the Pitbull or the, damn, I can't remember. It was so long ago. It was a good sounding amp though. It was good for, like, the tone of the day, like, which was around 2001 or 2002. I was looking at it. Let's see. How do I get my drums down for demos? Well, if you use these new programs like Easy Drummer 2, or now I think like Superior Drummer 3 is out, man, it's hard to get a bad sound. They just sound so good. But I do use some plugins and stuff like that to augment the drums. EQ, a bit of compression and limiting to really make it sound slamming. When I use Easy Drummer, I just go stereo out because it's all kind of blended within the mixer really nicely and has like compression options and things like that within the plugin. With Stephen Slate drums, which I use too, I send them out and split it across like 7 faders, and I've got my kick, snare, hat, toms, overheads, room, all isolated, and I mix it like you would a regular kit. And that's a big part of it. Programming the drums, getting a great drum part, but then also mixing and making the drums sound like real drums. It's like you got to kind of mix them like real drums. Make it not sound like a drum machine. And don't be afraid to add some distortion. That is helpful. You can bust all the drums out, like via maybe just an aux send or something, or bust the whole kit, whatever you want to do. But if you can blend in some distortion on the drums, literally you can send them through like a Tube Screamer plugin, or you can use something more sophisticated like Decapitator from Sound Toys. That gives you a lot of options to tweak the distortion, and then you can just make the drums you can either make the drums really blow up and sound distorted, or you can just blend that in a little bit at like 20%, and you don't really hear that as distortion, you just hear it as fat. It just sounds cool. It makes the drum sound ballsy. Mike and the Mechanics, any thoughts? They were cool. I like In the Living Years. I thought it was a nice sentiment. Let's see. Strat top knob, ever think about getting rid of that pinky smashing knob and going master volume tone like on my signature model? I have, my green Sir is like that, although I didn't order it that way. That guitar was a guitar made for someone else that I ended up purchasing from Sir. But it's just got a volume and tone. I like having the tone pot, though, down on the, I like wiring the bottom one for the bridge pickup on the Strat. So I'm cool with the Strat. I grew up playing Strat style, so it's not uncomfortable for me. Night Game is great. Thanks for my recommendation. It is good, right? It's like that's this band called The Night Game. They have a song called The Outfield, and they sound like Mr. Mister. It's good stuff. I don't know if they have full albums out, but they're an LA band that seems to be slowly but surely gaining some ground. John says I'm out. John, were you here? I didn't see you in my in the chat. Oh, I'm going to text John Sir here for a minute. Let's try to get him to come in and hang out. In the chat. How do I kick jet lag when I travel? I don't. I just deal with it. It just becomes a state of mind. Like, oh, I don't fight it. I'm up at 4 a.m. Let's just roll with it. Kind of like that. You just make that face like Bill Murray in Lost in Translation. You're just kind of drifting through life, holding the scotch, for the right time. It's century time, or whatever he says. Yeah. Ryan's asking about the AX8. Would I recommend a pair of stereo monitors or small, full-range powered speakers for a $500 budget? I would probably get a set of nice little studio monitors. See what you can get. Go to, I would go to some place where you could listen, like a Guitar Center or something, and they've always got a room there that you can listen. Maybe take your AX8 in, plug it into a mixer through those monitors, and have them switch. See what sounds good to you with a patch that sounds good to you on headphones. Maybe that you dialed in. That you're like, yeah, okay. That sounds cool. Then go in and see what feels comfortable. That would be my recommendation. There'll be a whole bunch in that price range with, M Audio and Yamaha and maybe KRK, different ones you can listen to. Chorus was definitely overused in the 80s, but it is such a cool effect. Yeah, like I was listening to like Back on the Chain Gang yesterday, came on the radio, it's loaded with, sounds like CE2, just ripping with it, and it's great, I love it. Pretender song. Soldano or Friedman, totally different. Soldano's a grindy, stiffer filtering, but cool. Like, it's cool. It's got I like that sound too. And then Friedman is the softer, lower filtering, more vintage Marshall thing. So it's just a little different. And Michael says, on a serious note, Dubai is built by slave labor. Those people are suffering in horrible conditions, in case you didn't know. I didn't know. But thank you for enlightening me. I don't actually know anything about Dubai. I'm just kind of curious about the place that kind of popped up out of nowhere. But I have heard a little bit about that, actually. Like folks from maybe Southeast Asian countries getting kind of taken there to work and stuff, right? I've heard a little bit about that in the news. You mentioned it. But anyway, back to guitar. Any thoughts on developing speed? I've been playing 30 years and still lacking playing. Well, for me, it was you don't want to shred. You're more like Robin Ford. For me, it was really the Paul Gilbert and Steve Morse exercises that I worked on that got me, just increased my, no matter what style you want to play, if you just learn some of their picking exercises and stuff like that and then play them with a metronome, it didn't seem to take very long. At 16 or 17 years of age, I worked on that stuff hard for 5 or 6 months, and it was like my technique went through the roof if I just used a metronome. Fast is not really that hard if you just, you have to just do the mechanical work and then you get there. It's kind of like working out. Like, you work out, 3 hours a day, 4 times a week for the next 6 months, you're going to be friggin' buff, That's just how it is. I think I was doing that on guitar right then. Like, doesn't matter what point in your life you do it, there's no substitute for just doing that work. So the fast is easy. Playing musically, that takes much more insight and practice. Oh, and the stupid chat just skipped around. I lost my place. Let me try and figure out where I was, or at least some. I'm sorry I'm going to miss some of your questions now. I did my best. I was doing so well. The window not skipping around. Okay, guys, sorry. I don't want to spend a bunch of time, so I'm just going to start in the middle here somewhere. Leon says, Jesus, when will the PT50 be out? It's going to happen this year. That's what I've been promised. We're having we're going to drive out there on Tuesday and have a path forward meeting, basically, just to kind of figure out some things. But we're doing it. We're doing it, and I'm serious about it. And so are they. So yeah, sometime, hopefully in the next, I would hope in the next 6 months, that we'll have some killer amp products coming. How am I liking the new lower bright cap on the Marshall? It's awesome. It is awesome. Yeah, much better, much more usable. Neo Creambacks in the next PT212 cab. Maybe. I want to try them for sure because they're so light. Or it is so light. I'd love to try, Yeah. Definitely. Did my bass arrive yet? No, and I haven't hit them up. You just reminded me I got to hit the Warwick folks and ask about that. Mike says, Pete, if you're complaining about, this is interesting, if you're complaining about your in-ears sounding gritty, you should definitely check out Rev 33. They're like a filter type thing for taking out grit and reducing ear fatigue. That's interesting. I have heard of that thing. I know I should ask Phil X about it because I think he uses it. And then he'll give me an honest opinion. Speaking of which, Joe says, do more videos with Phil X. I'd love to. I love that guy. He's super fun. If nothing else, maybe GetCon next year. Ron from Florida. Have you considered having Michael Lando and Tim and Pete show? Considered? Believe me, I've talked to Mike about it. Mike just sort of doesn't really want to do stuff like that right now. He's not really. It's a comfort thing for him, or it's just not kind of really what he does. Not we have to respect that. But I would love for him to do it, and I left the door wide open. And I even said, I told him, I said, you could check out the entire episode, and if you don't like it, we won't put it out. Or if you want to edit anything, you want personally just cover that, like anything that you don't like, And he goes, oh, that's interesting. Okay. And then we kind of left it at that. So I felt like the door was open still. But I have so much respect for Mike. I don't want to, the last thing in the world I'd want to do is pester him about it. We've brought it up, and Tim's brought it up to him too, I know. So he knows that we'd love for him to do it. It is kind of cool that there's some of these guys that are not, I saw a Nuno Betancourt kind of master class thing that somebody had filmed this week, and somebody was asking him, how do you play that part at the beginning of the song, And he goes, I could show you, but it would be more interesting if you just sort of figured it out on your own and did your own thing. And I like that in a way. He also gave some other really cool advice in it, like about playing live and your attitude towards making your own music. And he's one of the cool things is your attitude should be sort of not like catering to your audience or what do they want to hear me do. It should be like, I'm going to go on this ride. Do you want to come along with me? And you invite people to come along, and that's what keeps people coming back. I thought that was a great way to put it. Be an artist, and if people like what you do, they will. Some won't, some will. But I liked his attitude about, there's something about the whole being mysterious, and not teaching everything you do. And then people try and figure it out, and they come up with their own thing. It won't ever be exactly the same as the way that Jimmy Page played that lick, or Eddie Van Halen, or whatever, but you'll find your own thing and maybe maybe you'll come up with a new thing. Do I ever get what I call inspiration block? If I'm not feeling it within an hour, I need to stop, says Stuart. Yeah, sure, absolutely. Sometimes it's good to take a break, go get a cup of coffee, and just. What I generally do if I'm playing something, I'm like, this is trivial or trite or whatever, like what I'm doing. It doesn't feel like, like if I'm writing a song or whatever, then I'll just take a break and then usually switch up the groove completely. Listen to a completely different drum beat. Sometimes it feels good to just if I've recorded something already, to just wipe it, erase it. Ugh, God, I put 2 hours into that, but it sounds like crap, And just don't worry about it. Just, let's start over. And then generally, once I do that and I put up something else, you're kind of warmed up by then, so that's a nice thing. And you just try something completely different, at a different drum groove at a different tempo can really help to put you into a different mode, Izzy says, Desert Island guitar, bone or aura? He's talking about a Gil Yaron bone or a Sir Aura. Well, I haven't really spent any time with the aura, to be honest, so it's not fair. I haven't, I played it for 10 minutes at the shop, and that was it. So, whereas I own 2 Gil Yaron bone guitars, so I have to spend more time with John's guitar. It's beautiful, though. It's really beautiful. That's like saying, you want the Mercedes E or the BMW 7. It's just 2 great options that are very luxury. Do I use a compressor when I'm making a solo? Not usually, not for gain sounds, but if I was doing a clean edge of breakup kind of solo, and I'm like, I wanted it to sound like the sound of, Gilmore's licks at the beginning of Shine On You Crazy Diamond or something. If I wanted that kind of thing, I would probably use a compressor. Fiberlux or Deluxe Reverb? I don't know. Deluxe, I guess, if I had to pick. 112, I guess. Okay. Looking down further. Is it hard to put a humbucker pickup in a Strat with a single coil? Well, if you have to route it, it is. You got to dig out wood, so you got to look at your Strat and see what's under the pick guard. Maybe it's got a universal route or a swimming pool route, they call them, where it's just wide open like a big rectangle. Then it's easy. Just get a different pick guard. You can put the guitar back stock if you want. How does the Neil Creamback pair with a Creamback 65? I don't know. Never tried to blend. Probably be fine. Probably be fairly similar. Uh, sound like two greenbacks of different eras, I guess. Have I ever tested the Timmy and the Jan Ray together? No, I know they're supposed to be the same or very similar, but I have not. Let's see. Tim Pierce has a new video out on the Kemper YouTube channel. Yeah, I'd like to see that. I haven't seen. I know Tim has a Kemper, and he said he was doing something for them. Dan says Landau's pretty shy. Doesn't do a lot of interviews. Met him last month at Spud, and he couldn't have been any nicer. He's really kind and nice, and he is, he's like sort of an understated guy when you meet him personally. He's like walks off and carry a big stick for sure. Such a great player. What's the last really cool thing I learned and added to my playing? I would say, like, I saw Lindsey Buckingham play a guitar solo a little while ago at a Fleetwood Mac show. I'd never seen Fleetwood Mac live, and he really struck me with he took a long, extended guitar solo at the end of one song, and the way he built it was so amazing. It was probably a 3-minute solo, and he started low, and he did something, and then he repeated it, and it wasn't technically crazy or anything, but he just did something that was cool, and then he'd repeat it. He wasn't afraid to lean on it for a while, and then he went a little higher, and then he went a little higher and was doing the same kind of thing where he was like, experimenting, but I don't know how much of it was licks he knew he was going to do, but somewhat improvised for sure. Moved up the neck, and the intensity built, and it's like only from years of experience and a true professional, with an interesting style, and nothing was ever that technically crazy or that fast or speedy, but he ended up all the way up the neck at the top of the neck and just ended in this, kind of a flourish or whatever the end of the song. And there was like housewives behind me, literally, not guitar fans, people that were just, and he ended and the song stopped, and you heard this woman go, Jesus Christ, at the end, and people, he like brought the house down, they were just like clapping. I just remember the women behind me like freaking out, and I was like, he just pulled in like non-guitar aficionado sort of fans and held their interest for like 3 minutes with a guitar solo, built it, and it was the perfect arc. And I tried to sort of, in the moment, like, go, never forget that, like, that what he just did. You don't have to play a million notes, and it doesn't. It's all about, playing something memorable, repeating it, and going on a ride, not blowing your wad like in the first like 10 seconds of going up high and playing something really fast. Then you got nowhere to go, it had a beautiful arc to it. So that's one of the cooler things I saw in like the last year. SM57 and ribbon blending, yes, definitely. Usually leaning a bit more on the 57. Do I hoard and collect magazine articles, transcriptions, and learning materials? Not really. I used to. I used to have, every issue of Guitar Player magazine and everything, but not so much anymore. Just too much stuff to flood around, all that print. There's so much great stuff online now that you can just, you can hoard it on your hard drive, I guess. What's a decent pair of studio monitors that won't break the bank? I would get the little Adams. I've been very comfortable with their monitors for a long time. So A5s, I think they're called. They're not super cheap, but I don't think they're outrageously expensive. I'm just really comfortable on the sound of those monitors. EP Stone says, I saw your new pedal board built by Dave Friedman. It seems to be a large and heavy thing. Not really. It's not large and heavy. I mean, it's got everything I need on it, I feel like, for me. Everybody's different. But I fully dropped the size of the pedal board from my previous one a third. And I dropped, I think, 20 pounds. So that's pretty substantial. In the case, yes, it's 70 pounds almost in the case, or is it 63, I think. But that's in a great big Pelican case. Outside, it's 30-something, which is like the weight of a deluxe reverb. It's not heavy. That's not heavy to me. I guess to some people, they want to carry something that's this big, it would be heavy. To me, it's like, well, I just made something that's a third smaller than my last one. Fits like no problem. I can fit my entire rig in the trunk of my car. A 212 cabinet, a PT100 head, that pedal board, a bag of cables, and one or two guitars in not a big car, So if I can do that, that's like, it's not really that big. Anyway, what's the rest of your question? I didn't even look. As you also played, I got all defensive about the size of my pedal board and the weight. As you also played the head rush and helix, In which situation do you prefer the big thing? It's not really that big, but okay. Um, the, the Helix does a lot all by itself. Like obviously it's a, you can use it like sure to replace a pedal board. For me, I love the Helix. It's great. But for me, if I've got my choice, I love my pedal board because it's like I love the knobs thing, just being able to turn knobs, and I'm very comfortable with the little individual modular component style of working with a pedal board. I like it. Helix is cool too. I don't know, man. I can't pick what is the best way to do for anybody. I'm 60-40 towards the pedal board in my life. Like I get the Helix thing. Yeah, sometimes it's totally the right thing to do. You know, I've taken it and used it only and gone, that went well. At gigs and sessions and stuff. But who were some of the cats that inspired me to play guitar? Pete Townsend was the very first, for sure. And then like early ZZ Top, Billy Gibbons, the El Loco album had just come out when I started playing. So I was like really into blues, Stevie Ray Vaughan, and then like my sister was way into metal, so she got me into listening to, she was always playing, Ozzy and, Thin Lizzy and stuff like that. So I was hearing all that too, and I got into that. Folks like Randy Rhoads and Gary Moore, and then Van Halen, and that changed everything. Moving along, are split humbuckers still a thing? I guess so. I mean, I in my guitar I have split position sounds. What do I think of the Digitech Freakout? I like it enough to have it on my board. It's super fun. It solves a lot of problems. If you're in a band with only in-ears and no amps on stage, you can hit that thing and get some feedback. That's cool. Or if you're in the studio, we used it all over Holly Henderson's record because she wanted some feedback every now and then, but she's playing solos in the control room. We just hooked that thing up, and she'd hold some long notes and then hit that, and it'd just take off. And it was like, man, that sounds cool. Like, get some blistering sounding stuff going without a lot of volume and without having to be in the same room as the cabinet. That's pretty valuable. Preston says, watch the show with Laurie yesterday. She's an amazing guitarist. She certainly is. So good. I was working on some of her phrasing stuff yesterday. Just like, how does she... Because, it's not like she's really technically competent, but you can learn her stuff. If you're, decent, it's like you can sit and learn. She plays some amazing stuff, but I feel like it's not like, it's not like I'm watching, like, somebody... It's like I can do that. But the fact that she does it so groovy... Her playing's just perfect, And it's inspiring in that way. Like I can sit down and work and like learn some licks, and in a half an hour of watching her video, I can pick up some cool things. Go, damn! Like I never would have thought the phrase like that, but I can get it, under my fingers. That's fun, like and it's kind of all you need to do as a guitar player. It's not like you have to like, well, I have to be able to play 64th note triplets at 296 on the metronome, or I suck. Sometimes I feel that way about watching guys like Rick Graham. He's so good, like so ridiculously good. And I wish I could do that stuff. He's like, God, Rick's like, is crazy, crazy, crazy. But it's like, it would take a lot of practice to even approach some of the stuff that he's doing. And it's like, in the context of my music and the music I write, I don't know if it would work. It works great with what Rick's doing, but he's Rick. It's like Yngwie's Yngwie, He's amazing. Do I want to... What if I could do that? Would I do it? Like, where would it work in my songs? I don't think so, actually. So, whereas Laurie's, I guess that's what I'm getting at. Laurie's style really seems like, God, I could, learn something from this and incorporate it into my own music, and it would totally apply and make sense. And it's not unattainable. That's a really nice thing, Mikey's a portrait photographer in Hollywood. Let's do a shoot. I'd love to. Man, photos? Are you kidding? Fun. The narcissist in me would love it. Photos are always good. You always need new photos for things. Albums and releases and websites and all that stuff. So I'm all about it. Did you ever buy gear and find I don't like it after having it for a while? We all have had that, I think. Certainly. It's like, this just didn't work out. Definitely. Any upcoming gigs or session work? Well, looks like I'm going back to Japan. So I'll be spending some time there coming up pretty soon. And sessions kind of come in for me like slowly but surely all the time. I have one this week on Thursday. I have a bunch of work to get done, like just the videos, like docs video and stuff like that. I got to finish all that stuff, and I'm trying to finish my own record, and then we're also just starting to mix Holly's record with a great mixing engineer. So there's a lot of stuff to get done before Japan. Um, okay, we're going about an hour and 10 minutes. I guess I'll go about an hour and a half today. We got 459 people online. It's amazing. It's rad. Um, let's see here. This is a good question. David says, could you talk to an amp guy and see if there would ever be a way to replace a gain knob with an input jack so it could be controlled by a pedal? Well, there's just a way you can do that, controlling the gain via an external pedal. There's different ways to do that. And I actually know an amp manufacturer that's working on that right now. I can't talk about it because it's a new design, but it is pretty cool. My delicious blue beverage. It'll make me burp. It's kind of like egg protein. It's like maybe not the best thing to do for the Sunday mornings. Do I prefer live in-ears great monitor mix or just hearing the speaker? Great monitor mix with hearing the guitar cabinet is the best for me. I play the best. It feels good. Old school. Not too loud. Doesn't have to be loud. Yeah, I like it. Have you ever played a Kemper profiling amp? There's one right there, 3 feet away from me. And what are my profiles that I prefer, or what are my thoughts? What are my thoughts? I like the Kemper, especially with my profiles in it, because I made profiles for it. I don't really bond, well, so I'll just say like it's a little difficult for me to navigate the workflow, the buttons and stuff like that. So once the thing's set and it's got my profiles in it, great. I don't even look at it. I just turn it on, and then I've got it MIDI'd up to my Helix actually, the Worlds Collide, and then I just change the presets, and it's like I have like 5 profiles that I use all the time. They're just ones I made, and just kind of turn it on. It sits over there, and then I don't have to page through menus or things like that. But it does the job great. It feels great. The profiles are cool. It's all about the profiles. Think of it like a sampler. You could get a sampler with crappy piano samples, or you could get one with great piano samples. Be like, oh, I like this piece of gear. Oh, this piece of gear sucks. It's like, no. It's completely reliant on the profiles, I find. If you get some great ones, it's like, damn, this is pretty rad. Did I try the new Rocktron Tube Sonic preamp? No, is that the Marshall-y one? I saw it in a Premier Guitar thing yesterday, I think, and it looks cool. It's supposed to do plexi stuff. I'd like to try it. Andre says he just bought a Riot Reloaded and he's in love with it. Do I have some tip or advice? No, I mean, if you like it, it's kind of, that pedal is terrific. I helped voice it a little bit. They asked me opinions and stuff. Compared to the regular Riot, I sort of was making the suggestion to veer it a little bit more in a Marshall-y direction. I think they did that on the Reloaded version. Okay. Connor's asking about combos. Plays small amps, Bad Cat, Fender Custom, large Fender Twin. Seems Sustain comes with Steve Stevens' larger amps like Marshall heads. Well, it's just more gain, really. And Sustain is a product of like a certain level of gain or compression, because it's compressing the sound when it's gain. It's not just distortion, it's compression. And getting the volume up to a point where the guitar is interacting with the amp, and then you get lots of sustain. A little feedback is helpful. And then you can use less gain. Louder the thing gets, the less gain you have to use to get some nice feedback and sustain, actually. Is it a good investment to buy a newer Gibson? Geez, I don't know if it's a good investment. If you find a guitar you like, though, I would try a lot of them to see. But I have played some great custom shop like post 2013. They did some nice historic guitars. They're some of the best ones that they ever made, for sure. Finishes look right, the neck shapes are better to me. But you got to play a lot to get the right one, I think, for you. What's the future for guitar? Geez, I don't know. it'll always be there, just like the violin or the flute, or it's not going anywhere. And there's this new trend toward headless guitars and 7 and 8 strings, and people doing that whole sort of progressive bent, which is really interesting. Could go that way. There's a lot of that at NAMM this year. I was like blown away. I was like, whoa, where did all these come from? It's a whole style I don't know about, but seems to be a trend. So it's cool. Hey, that's only helpful. Yellow Jackets and Trainer YBA. I wonder how many people know what you're talking about. That's from Mr. K. Yellow Jackets are these like tube replacement. Sorry. So they will. I think Root Tube made them, and you could take them and put them into a like 50-watt amp, let's say, and bring it down to 15 watts. So they had two EL84s in them, and it would allow you to adapt a big tube amp to be sort of more like a smaller tube amp. Never tried them, so I'm not sure how they would sound. A YBA is kind of known for being like a poor man's Marshall, but not deficient in tone or anything. They were Canadian, and they were great amps, tube amps. Might sound good, but yeah, I never tried the Yellow Jackets. Benjamin says, I'm humble. Thank you. I try and stay humble. I do. It's good to be humble in life, no matter what you do. I consider myself no different than a roofer or a plumber. I'm just working. I'm just trying to pay my bills, man. I just happen to play the guitar. Let's see. But I have the hookups like a star or something. He says, Friedman on speed dial. Mr. Pierce sleeping on the couch. Tim, wake up. No, he's not here. That would be weird. And Mr. Sir helping you move. Did he help me move? I don't think he ever helped me move. They're my buddies. I mean, they're just guitar geeks like me. They're actually really humble guys. Sir's a humble guy. Friedman's a humble guy. And Tim is the sweetest dude you've ever met. He's so nice. And they all just are guitar nuts. That's all we are. We all just live in the same city, I guess. So you end up hanging out. Spend enough time here and work long enough, you meet all these people and you just end up being friends because you're in the same line of work. Let's see. Great info on mixing the drums. Yeah, blending the drums, sample drums like real drums is really helpful. You do tricks to make them sound real. Okay, moving down. My thoughts on 6550s versus EL34s and a Marshall. This is Michael's question. The 6550s sort of have a reputation for being hard, not as pleasant breakup. EL34s are going to be more of that kind of characteristic Marshall mid-range as you drive them. I just like EL34s, I think. However, 60i7s is the Van Halen thing. It's a cool thing. It can sort of take you somewhere down the way towards a little less mids than the L34 and a little more like going drifting towards the 6L6, I guess, in tone. And that can be a cool combo because sometimes the mids of the L34 can be maybe a little grating or a little much, Let's see. B. Burker says, love Fender, but there are so many $600 guitars that offer features and quality, like the Sterling from Music Man. I've only played a few of those, especially the Cutlass. Makers like Fender and Gibson don't seem to get it. Agree. Well, Fender, a long time ago, they came out with not a long time, a few years ago, they came out with those, what do they call them? The Strats and Tellys made in China. Are they Classic Player? Are they called, or are they? I can't remember what they're called, and the Squires and stuff, pretty damn good, right, for the dough. And they're, the thing about it, these guitars might be made in the same factories as the Sterling stuff, and something not a lot of people realize is these like giant, sort of like almost like contract manufacturers in places like South Korea and China, and they're making a lot of the same, they've got, I don't know that, like about the Squire and stuff. They might have their own facility, but the quality's definitely come up a lot across the board. And I think Fender's has got, I mean, just to their credit, some of that Squire stuff. What are the Strats? Are they called Classic Player or 50s Strat or Classic? I can't remember, but they came out a few years ago. They looked great. They were solid wood guitars. They weren't plywood like what I grew up with playing. And, um, the finishes were nice. And it was like you kind of replaced the pickups and you got a pretty good guitar for cheap. I don't know. It's hard to compete with that stuff these days, I guess. But no. Yeah. Ryan says, watch the Laurie Basilio episode. Such a great player. So good. Glad to see there's lots of views on that. I think it's up around like 18,000 now or something. I'm stoked about that. She deserves it. Had a nice flow to it, that episode, too. Tim made the, he goes, I think we're getting looser at this. I think we are. We're actually just having a really good time doing it. Let's see. Rocket Man says, being that you're good at... Oh, I'm going to plug in my computer. In a second, folks. Run out of battery here. Second. This cable will reach. There we go. Okay. Moving right along. Rocket Man's asking if I've ever thought about creating and selling Kemper profiles. I'm sort of not really into doing that right now. I just kind of want to continue on the amp path, and I feel like if I'm making and selling Kemper profiles, then I've sort of moved towards trying to, monetize that sort of, it's almost like I love the stuff and all that and the technology, but Sir's in the car, he says, so he's not going to be here today. He's driving. I just, we're working on new amp designs and stuff like that, and I feel like I want to put my focus in that still at this point, not to detract from the Kempers and stuff like that, but I don't know if they need my help. I feel like it would be like abandoned for me to commercially sell profiles of an amplifier. I feel like I would be abandoning the traditional amp. When I'm going that way and I'm trying to make money out of it or something, and it would feel like, I don't know. Have I ever played with Mark Ford? He always gets a great tone. I know he's a great guitar player. Seen him live solo a few times. I've got a good Mark Ford story, but no, I've never played with him actually. How did I jump back here in the chat? Somebody's talking about my pedal board again that seems large and heavy. It's the same question I answered already. Anyway. There's a good question from Liam. I find that I can write decent chord progressions pretty easily, but I always have problems writing melodies. Do I have any suggestions? I would suggest learning like some Beatles songs and check out the melodies. Where the phrasing of them, first of all, because a lot of people with melodies want to start on the one all the time. It's okay to wait for a second before you like little breaks, right? And the phrasing is really important. And where you come in, like on the end of you don't have to like constantly be coming in right at the top and then play, so rhythmically it's a thing. But yeah, learning some great melodies and then getting into the habit of practicing when you write a cool chord progression, then sing, just sing, like hum, whatever it is, what comes into your mind. Don't start playing right away. You get in the practice of like whatever's coming into your head melodically and let that come through the guitar. So you're letting your melodic instinct rule as opposed to like patterns, on the neck. That's the best advice I can give you for that. Justin's asking about strabismus, my lazy eye. He has one too. Have I ever done the operation or looked in? No. Actually, I did. I had an operation, believe that. But imagine what it looked like before. It was in the 70s, though, and they weren't very good at it then. So, literally in the 70s. I'm old, man. So, have not done it, and I maybe get it at some point. I don't know. We'll see. Who are my top 3 rhythm guitar influences? You feel like you hear some Eddie and Alex Lifeson. It's hard to pick favorites, but yeah, I love Alex Lifeson for his chordal, droney notes, letting things ring. Awesome rhythm guitar playing, I mean, a song like was it Digital Man? I love the rhythm guitar playing in that. You know, those long the F sharp, you know, sus 11 or whatever it is. You know, open position thing, and then the kind of reggae sort of chorus part, or I guess it's like the B section or whatever, is amazing. You know, he's got a really interesting combination. The chords are beautiful, the voicings are beautiful, and then the mix of techniques is beautiful, and the tones are beautiful. So certainly Alex, yeah, I love his creative, you know, rhythm guitar playing and melodic rhythm guitar playing. There's a lot of melody going through his playing as he's changing chords. You know, when I think about that, just the whole hook of that. You know, I can't play it. I wish I could, but you know, when he hits the big open 11 chord in that reggae kind of part, there's a hook moving all the way through those chords. Beautiful melody that's happening. Really cool. So Alex, yeah, for sure. Let's give Alex some credit. Pete Townsend, definitely, was one of my first guitar influences, and his kind of aggressive, you know, strumming approach and stuff, and he's similar in a way. You know, when when you think about like, I don't know if you can be able to hear this, but you know, let's see, how's it go? Oh shit. Uh, you know, the melody that's moving through the chords is amazing. I guess that's it. Yeah, love that. Melodically, um, you didn't need a melody there because he's playing it on the rhythm guitar. It's so cool. Um, have ever teamed up or will you team up with famous jazz guitarists? No, they scare me. Closest I've ever come is probably, Scott Henderson on the guitar wank, or Bruce Foreman getting to sit and hang with those guys. I feel like, what do you guys want to talk to me for? Knucklehead like me. Um, I did their show, Guitar Wank, and I was amazed they would have me. I was there with Tim, so that makes sense. I was tagging along with Tim, we'll put it that way. Do I put a boost pedal in the effects loop while on high gain? I don't know, because I have a 3-channel amp. So on my amp, you've got 2 sets of gains and masters. So you can think of my third gain and master as being my boost. You can use a boost in the effects loop to just kick the volume in the amp up a little bit. There's nothing wrong with doing a clean boost of some sort. What do I think of the non-fine tuner Floyd setup with locking tuners versus regular locking nut? It works great. It's awesome as long as the bridge is dialed in. They can be a little finicky as far as the knife edges. Not maybe sort of made like they used to be. And so if you polish and sharpen the knife edges on them, they seem to work really well. But I've got this new bridge that I'm trying on my guitar, which I'm basically completely having a love affair with. So it's a new kind of way to go at it. It's simpler, and it sounds amazing, and it's so easy. So let's see. Let's see here. What do I think of heritage guitars? Don't know much about them. Why aren't they popular till now? Are they popular now? I don't know. Are they becoming more popular? I don't actually really know that much about the heritage guitars. So they're built in the old Kalamazoo factory, but I don't know. You don't see them around that much and stuff. So I'm sorry, I'm not don't have an informed opinion. How do I manage to get consistent low end balance in my mixes? They really translate well. Thank you. So I used to kind of be bass shy. I was like a little scared of bass, you know, being too bloated in the low end of it. So I was mixing. Now I mix a little more bass because music's so bass heavy, and it feels good and it sounds good. So I'm comfortable with it. You have to be careful in the like one. So you can kind of roll off everything below 40, and that might help clear up from the low sub mud. and then you just have to be careful with how much low end you push, and you got to really be careful in like maybe the 190 range. I find you can do some cuts in instruments in that range, and also maybe in your whole mix, you can put an EQ like on the master bus, and sometimes you can boost 60, like a mastering style, like a Massenburg or a plug-in like Millennia plug-in or something, really good EQ, and you can boost like 60, just like a dB or two, but then in the low, like around 200 or 190, you can actually do a little bit of gentle cut there, maybe 2 dB or something like that, dB and a half. And it just cleans up the lows a little bit. And you have to be careful of that low end building up in mixes. So cutting low end in things like acoustic guitars, certain electric guitar sounds, certainly in vocals, and kind of filtering out stuff is important because it all just builds up. So any plans for redoing the reactive load shootout with your own IR, including the aux? Not really. I tried listening to the aux like that, and it sounds just a little bit different. The thing you have to keep in mind about reactive loads is they're all going to be modeled after a certain impedance curve of a certain speaker in a certain cabinet. Which one is better is irrelevant to me as long as it sounds like the cabinet it was modeled after. But as soon as you try a different speaker cabinet, now you've got you're trying to. Does this make sense? Like so if you've got a greenback in a closed back 112 cabinet, that is going to have a certain impedance curve. If you take that same greenback and you put it in a 412, now the impedance curve just changed. So if you modeled the 112 or if you modeled the 412, now one's going to be different than the other. Now, if you were to plug the amp in and listen to an IR through an IR, and then you were listening to a load box that was modeled after one or the other, it's going to change when you know what I mean, because the curve changed. So it doesn't mean like it's worse. It just means the impedance curve was modeled after that particular speaker in that particular cabinet. So it's a moving target, So as long as it's a good reactive load, you're in the ballpark, So if you use the SUR reactive load, right, it's modeled after a greenback loaded 412. If you go to an open back 212, and you want to plug your divided by 13 into the SUR reactive load and then use an open back 212 with blues, the impedance curve isn't going to be the same as you would have to find a load box that's modeled after an open back 212 with blues. Does it matter? Not really. It's going to change the tone a little bit, yes, but that particular IR is going to have its own sound, whatever you're using of a 212 open back with. So it's like, just don't worry about it so much about that stuff. Like, as long as you've got a true reactive load, and it's not bullshit that they're saying it's a reactive load, which happens sometimes with certain reactive loads. As long as you've got a resonant peak and a high rise, you're on the way to it being okay. At least the load's reactive, and the amp's not going to sound like mid-range and nothing like this with no open top end and no kind of full, good-feeling bottom end. So, having said that, now it's the other sort of feature set and the prices and stuff like that that really matter. That's my take on reactive loads. I hope that makes sense. It's a difficult thing to explain, I find. That fellow Michael that did the aux comparison with the SUR and what's the other ones he did, the Torpedo Live and stuff like that. He's great, and I like the videos he makes and stuff. I felt like it was a little bit misleading video, not to criticize other people's videos, but I did, because it's like, well, he was trying different IRs and different load boxes and then miking with it's like, it almost is like, well, it's just a comparison of tones at that point. Which tone do you like better? You can't say, well, that load box was better, because he was mixing up the IRs and then miking in some of them, and then in the aux things, he was using the aux cabinets. It's like, there's so many variables that it was almost like a comparison of different sounds. That's all it was, So that's the dangerous thing. Okay. Where are we going here? Where are we going? Moving down. V Mazone says, love your stuff, thankful for what you do for help. Amp building hobbyist and tech. Do you geek out over things like filtering in your amps? A little bit, although I don't really understand it, but I know what it feels like. Values of filter caps in the PT100. You'd have to ask John, but I don't know if he'd want to tell you exactly. But I will say it's kind of like early 70s style Marshall filtering. It's not like total plexi, real loose filtering, low filtering. It's a little bit more like maybe 70, 71, a little stiffer, um, but not much. So try and strike that balance. The filtering affects the feel of the amp, but it also affects things like the stability, and you get some weird sort of artifacts and distortion and stuff. I don't really understand it, but the low filtering's got a nice squishy kind of that plexi feel, and then as the filtering gets stiffer, the amp gets a little stiffer and tighter, but you can lose some of the magic goo. How's that for a technical term? Magic goo. Let's see. MXR microamp and effects loop for dirty boost works. Yeah, that would work fine. You can use any kind of clean boost. Okay, moving down. Connor again. I think it's the same guy. This is important. Sustain. Are larger tube amps, Fender Twin Reverb, likely to have better sustain than smaller amps? No, I would say not. I mean, you can get more sustain out of a cranked up Fender Tweed Deluxe than you can out of a Fender Twin. And it's because the amp's going to compress and overdrive. The compression is a factor with the drive. And a Twin, you're going to have to get up really loud by the point. But you are going to get sustain just at a volume. There's a couple different ways to get sustain. Compression and overdrive are going to create sustain. So as an amplifier's front end is distorting more, it's clipping the peaks and squishing the waveform and distorting, but it's also going to give you some sustain because it's going to hold on to the note longer due to the compression and distortion that's happening by driving it harder. But you can also get sustain out of volume because what ends up happening is a feedback loop between the speakers and the guitar pickups. So it's the guitar tones, a magic combination of all those things, I guess. Kind of an intangible. These are the things you lose in ears when you take the amp off stage. All that magic goes away. It's such a big part of the guitar sound. It's not what you lose with in-ears. It's specifically if you take the amp off the stage or use nothing but, a modeler with no sound on stage. That was what I meant. The fix. Yes. I like the fix. Do I own a headless guitar? No. Individual pedals or multi-effects. Which individual? Well, I have pedal board. Look at my latest pedal board build video. I would suggest I'll put out a couple pedal board build videos, and you can see my exact picks. And then, like sometimes I use them together, like on my little Helix board that's over here. It's got an archer on it. Let's go look at it, shall we? Why not? I'll show you. This little board has that Helix, H9, Starlight and Crazy Tube circuits, and the GC2 Keeley. Hopefully you can see that okay. Which is a great compressor. So I've got three kind of, a compressor, two drivey things, a fuzz and an archer that I'm missing a knob on. Fell off. And I've got a T3 on there just because I like having a separate tuner that I can just hit. I don't know. It's more of I could get away with using the tuner in the Helix, but it's just a comfort thing. It's what I'm used to. So some choices I made there. Okay, the chat just jumped way down, and I'm at about an hour and 38, so I'm going to kind of go to the end anyway here, guys, and back up just a little bit and take some more, and then I'm going to get going pretty soon. Do I know anybody that mods analog pedals to add MIDI to save and recall presets? No. That would be maybe impossible. That would be not cost effective, I don't think. Because you can't, you can't like do a MIDI it's like there's no way to, it's a pot. So there's no way to store a preset of, you need basically like an analog circuit, but then digital pots that you can there's pedals like that Electron drive pedal I used a little while ago. I think it's called Electron something or other, and it's like analog circuits, but the pots are digital. And then, as you're turning the pots or whatever, it's changing the value in the analog world. But then you can store those presets so you have to do something. The only other way to do it would be mechanized pots like they had on that Soldano Caswell preamp. But I digress. If you've never seen that thing, pots would spin. They were actually like analog pots with like motors in them, and you could store presets in the pots would spin. Pretty crazy. Put out a blooper reel. I've often thought about it. If you go back and watch my video for the Aria pedal from this is a long time ago, 6, 7, 8 years ago, from Pigtronics, I'll put a blooper at the end of that one. My memory for those things is, how do I remember that I did that? But I did. Which is harder, Spanish Fly or Eruption? These are both pretty hard. There's a couple parts in Spanish Fly that are really hard. Alrighty. Moving down. Have I tried the new XFX 3? No, have not. Not. Still getting used to the AX8. Any suggestions for a young vocalist trying to get in the music industry? Any schools in Toronto or a path I would advise? She is a sibling which is currently in her second year of high school. I would suggest going to med school. Okay. My suggestion is that she has to be insane about music, like I was. It has to own you, and you have to know nothing else, and just be like, this, I can't think about anything else. This is all I want to do with my life. I can't imagine doing anything else. And you're like, all right, you're crazy, so that's what you better go do. But it's a hard road, Just really just gigging and getting out there and doing, playing with friends, getting in. She's in high school. It's like get in a band, Get out and sing live as much as possible. Write songs if possible. Learn an instrument so you can write songs. Learn, if she's just singing, maybe pick some guitar or piano, and so you can, communicate on that musical level beyond just singing with other musicians. You hear something in your head, you can pick up a guitar and nail out some chords if you're writing a song. There's some starters. Get on Instagram. Hate to say it, but it's kind of the way a lot of people are doing it these days. Get on Instagram, get on YouTube, make videos, write songs, just put the music out there, introduce yourself to the world, and you never know what can happen. Is my room acoustically treated? Well, I have yes, so it's just this rectangular room, my studio room, and then I've got these big panels that you see the wood stuff on the walls. Those were made for me. They're big bass traps, basically, and there's traps in every corner. There's a cloud over the top, and it all soaks up. It's all just to soak up sound in a non-perfect room. Queen Lizzie said, hopefully people mentioned, oh, I unplugged my computer. Hopefully people mentioned they like my Super Reverb video. Yeah, I put out that video this week. Thank you. It was a great Super Reverb. My friend Toshi lent it to me, and it sounded so good. Really enjoyed that amp. It sounds amazing. Somebody was like, this is the best guitar amp I've ever heard. And I mean, to me, it's like, yeah, it's one of the, just this exceptional sounding amp, So I plugged into it, and I was like, he was going to come pick it up, and I said, could you mind if I use this amp in a video? And because I said I plugged into it, it sounds so amazing. And it's one of those things, no pedals, no nothing. You plug into it, you go, oh God, it's so good, and it's so simple. You don't need anything else. Just this one amp. Sounds so great. Bertel is asking, any suggestion on a buffer pedal? Sir makes a nice one. You can kind of get a buffer that, okay, the radial one's nice because it's got the drag control, so you can dial back some of the top end of the buffer if you want to. It's also got a boost built in. It's called the Elevator. Check it out. Like a Sir Coco Boost, you can set to be true bypass or buffered bypass, and the buffer sounds great. And if you have it in buffered bypass, it'll work as a terrific buffer, but it's also got the boost options in it. So there's some pedals like that you can use as a boost as well, and that it's kind of like, well, you can kill two birds with one stone. Why not get one of those? Okay, let's see. Fernando says, I want to get an aux just so that I can, hopefully I won't have to learn all that recording stuff that I don't understand. Yeah, it's helpful for, I mean, you don't need mics. Beyond not having to learn how to use mics and pre's and have extras, it's just easier because you don't need all the, plug it all in. So it's like, it's less stuff to work with. It's just very kind of elegant. What do I think about the Mateus Asato signature guitars? Cool. I don't know much about, I think he's using the Thornbucker in the bridge. I think it's the, well, I'm not sure much of the specs on his guitar, to tell you the truth, beyond that. So I never picked it up, played it. I like the look of the black one with the gold hardware. Any tips on time management? This is from Bernhard. To learn songs for an audition, and you have a lot of other stuff to do. I mean, really, you just got to put in the time. You got to just kind of set it. Put the phone aside and the computer and just turn everything off, and then devote your time to kind of forget about the fact that you're trying to learn things quickly and just get into it. Devote like that time basically, and then just one step at a time. Maybe take 2-3 songs a day, and then stop. The next day, go back and review the 3 you already learned, and then start maybe add 2 more. Now you're up to 5. Like, can't be that many songs for an audition, right? Don't try and do too much. Do as much as you can a day, and that when you feel like your brain's not absorbing anymore, just stop, go, and then you'll come back the next day and be like, God, I can't remember how to play them, and then you'll go over them and be like, oh, they're coming back quick. Okay, spend an hour or so going over the 3 that you did, and then move on, learn a couple more, etc. That's how I do it. Use a phrase trainer, not iTunes. Okay, I'm at about an hour and 46. I'm going to take like 3 or 4 more questions, and I'm going to go. I'm too quiet today, am I? Let me go to OBS. It's a little late in the game here to be doing this, but check, 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 check. It's got a little meter on it, the program here. Just trying to kind of like set it at the right thing so that it's not overdriving. But there, I just turned it up a little bit. Hopefully that's helpful. Right at the end. Do I find NOS tubes worth the hunt? Don't bother with the power tubes, but if you can find a nice 12AX7 or 2, it's kind of cool in the first slot. Have you ever played a pedal guitar or amp that blew you away and you had to have it? Yeah, my old Strat. Cheap pedal specifically, guitar or amp that blew me away and I had to have it. Cheap pedal. Let me think about it for a minute. Or guitar or amp. No. Everything's too expensive. Not that I can come up with. Let's see. Okay, just a couple more. Let's see. Any advice when using a modeler with full range cab on stage so the IR only models the cab and not the mic? Basically, it sounds like an amp on stage, not mic'd up in a studio setting. No. To me, you kind of want the whole package. You want the IR and the cab. It doesn't really work like that. So nothing ever sounds like the cab on stage, because the cab on stage is a physical, even if you change the type of cab on stage, that changes, right? So 412, now you're going to move to an open back 212. Totally different sounding on stage. So, you know what I mean? So I just don't worry about that much. It's like if I'm using a modeler on stage and I'm sending that sound to the front of house, then I want it to sound like there's a mic on it, because that would be the sound of the similarly mic'd cabinet, right? And then the onstage sound is you could use a full range cabinet, or you could use, there's these new products out, like something in my NAMM video that I put out recently, and there's 2 different guitar cabinets in there that I did little profiles of. And they're made to sound a little more and feel a little more like a guitar cabinet on stage. So check those out. One's from Italy, and I can't remember the other one I did, but that was kind of the idea with both of them. They're sort of made to sound a little bit more like a sound and feel like a speaker cabinet, like a real guitar cabinet. Oh, the other one was the Celestion Schlesinger came out with a full range guitar speaker that looks like a traditional guitar speaker, but it's a coaxial speaker, and you can put it in any cabinet you want. And it was made to kind of, you know, made for modelers, but made to kind of have the tone. I liked their kind of approach of like, it's like, here's a speaker, it's full range, it's made to sound and feel like a guitar speaker, but using it with a full range sound. Throw it in any cabinet you want and see how it sounds. And I kind of like that. Like, don't try and make the modeler like, you know, exactly the same. It's just like, here. It's like this is in a bad way. It almost sounds like this will be good enough. Just do this. And I sort of like that approach to it, because it's like it's a moving target what you're going for, trying to replicate the sound and feel of a traditional guitar cabinet on stage using this digital device and stuff. And it's like, maybe close enough is good enough, you know, for that sort of thing. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. If you do that, I would just, if you go down that rabbit hole and you want it to feel like that, I would just use a traditional amp, to be honest. Somebody's asking about the sweet shoes that I wear. I think you're talking about those black ones that I wear all the time, because they're also the most comfortable pair of shoes I've ever had in my life. They're Salvador Ferragamo or something, and they're Japanese. They have an Italian-sounding name. I found them in Japan in this one little store, and they're so rad. They're the most comfortable shoes I'm wearing. Like, I have to buy some more, I think, because I'm going to destroy those ones pretty soon. I've been wearing them for like 3 years. Did I play a Novo guitar yet? No, I have not. What's that? Is that a headless guitar? I have not. Okay. Is a tube buffer worth it? I don't think so. Plenty of great solid state buffers out there right now. I don't think tube is necessary. Queen Lizzie says the Empress buffer is nice and likes the Sir buffer as well. If I did a cover show, what are the first 3 songs? Oh, geez, I don't know. Think about it. Depend on the theme. Could be Tom Petty, or it could be metal. Okay, moving to the end. Charles says Mike's Turn uses a Boss DS1 and a cheap Yamaha solid state amp. Still sounds awesome. Yeah, it's because he's Mike. Ultimately, it's the player. It really is in the fingers. Have I ever gone on stage and played with Steel Panther? No, but I've known Russ since the 90s. Guitar player. I haven't seen him for many years, but we'll go back to too long. Isn't the Friedman ASM 12 designed to be like a traditional cabinet? Certainly, final piece of the puzzle for me with my AX8. That's great. You found, Troy says, you found something you liked. Yeah, he designed it to not be totally flat. I think he wanted some balls in the cabinet. So it's one way to go. It's not going to be, you know, to me, it's like if you develop a sound and you want it to be flat, it's like, you know, you want the speaker system to be flat to represent the exact sound of whatever you know, coming out of the AX8. It sounds like, you know, okay, yeah, that's sort of my perfect. If you then add some low end in the cabinet or something, well, you're changing that. But that was Dave's approach, and for some people, you know, and there seems to be like there's a few cabinets out there now that are sort of going that way. Like our cabinet isn't totally flat. It's got a kind of a unique tone to it that might sound and feel more like a traditional guitar cabinet. It's one way to go. I think a Marshall head with a reactive load in IRs is better for recording than an Axe FX 2. It just depends. You know, it's such a difficult question. Okay, y'all. I gotta go soon. Let's see here. Salvador Ferragamo are grand. Good Lord. They weren't that much in Japan. I'll tell you that. They are leather shoes. They're like nice shoes, but they were a couple $100 when I bought a pair in Japan. Maybe because they're import, you know. I don't know. They were a couple $100. Nice shoes, though. God, I gotta believe me. They were worth it. You know, you could spend $50 or $40 on a pair of Converse, or spend a couple $100 on a nice pair of shoes that you wear for the next 5 years. Okay, y'all. Last question. Good places to buy a guitar from in Tokyo. I like Guitar Traders in Daikanyama. Love that store. It's amazing. I did a video on it recently, a few months ago. You can find what a place to visit. For newer guitars and stuff like that, the Ikibe store in Shibuya is wonderful. It's extensive collection of like Fender everything, and there's an upstairs store and a downstairs store called Guitar Jungle upstairs, I believe, and then the or maybe the downstairs is the Guitar Jungle. But anyway, it doesn't matter. It's like there's the upstairs and the downstairs, and then Key Music's right around the corner. What else is there? Guitar Station and Amp Station is right around the corner too, and they're both great. Just go to that one little zone in Shibuya, and you'll find some amazing guitars. Hartman Vintage is right there. They have some interesting old Japanese guitars, as well as like a small selection of usually nice vintage American guitars and stuff, and it's really cool. So that's a great, beyond going to Ochanomizu or something, which is all guitar shops, that one few block radius in Shibuya is pretty fantastic. And you can actually walk to Daikanyama from there in about 15 minutes, and it's a nice walk, and I do that all the time when I'm staying there. If you're there, you might find me walking from Shibuya to Daikanyama to go to Guitar Traders, because it's like I go to Mud Coffee, and I get a coffee, and I make that walk, and I go, because I'm a creature of habit. So you'll be walking in my footsteps if you go on that little G7 Guitars is right there, a little custom shop in Tokyo. So you get on your iPhone, look at the maps or whatever, and map it to take the walk. It's fun. It's cool. Trust me. Enjoy. Okay, guys. I am going to run. I hope you guys have a great day, and keep rocking. Mike says, "What's my favorite guitar amp that I personally own?" It'd be my signature amp, my signature guitar. My favorite guitar right now is that blue one. I love that thing, and I'm playing it more than I just reach for it all the time. I love it. I love it. I love it. You can hear Laurie Basilio absolutely shred on it in the latest Tim and Pete video. If you haven't seen it, please go and watch Tim and Pete's guitar show this week and watch Laurie, because she's inspirational and awesome. And yeah. All right, you guys. Have a great day, and I will see you next week. I'll be here. Same time, same place, 11 a.m. Sundays. Rock on.